listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your number one source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith. Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's Preachers of L.A. After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's Preachers of L.A. After Show.
The mirror.
I'm gonna learn the words to that song.
You are
I
a
love
leader.
it. You gotta be careful. Your voice is already shot.
I know.
Yes, it is. It's
we have
pretty.
a whole hour here.
I know, right? Yes.
Welcome to AfterBuzz TV. This is the after show for Preachers of L.A. This is episode 6 on season 1, and this one is called Staying True to You. I am your host, Fallon Mercedes. We have our lovely Megan in the building. Say
What's
hi.
up, y'all? Yes, my voice is almost back, but until then, I'm still rocking in the tenor section of the church choir.
And we also have a new, very special co-host that I want all of you to give a great, warm welcome to. Her name is Tiffany.
Whoop, whoop.
Welcome to
Hello,
AfterBuzz
Tiffany.
TV.
Thank you for such a warm welcome. Very special. I love it. I have to live up to that now.
We love newbies here because,
yeah.
one, we want to break you in.
Right.
And then also, you know, we're fans of the show just like you guys and, you know, fans out there. So it's nice to get another opinion in here. And you guys out there commented about our friend Trey who joined us last week. And you
Yes.
loved his opinion. So it's nice that you guys chime in and comment. And is this your first AfterBuzz?
This is my very first time, so I'm an AfterBuzz virgin.
Ooh.
So take it easy on me, ladies.
Well, the Lord loves virgins, so you're in the right
I'm in the
place,
right
honey.
Now, tell us about, you know, do you have any hosting history? Are you a fan of Preachers of L.A.? Let us
Do you
know.
love Jesus?
I love all of that. I am a host and a producer, and I came here because I love Preachers of LA, which is very funny because I'm not affiliated with any church whatsoever, and I really don't love reality TV. Enter Preachers of LA, bringing me back to the church side, also back to reality. So I'm happy to be a part of this show and talking about it.
Thank you.
Yay.
We're happy to have you now. Do you identify yourself as a Christian? Because when people say, oh, you know, I don't go to any, I'm not associated with any church, you know, people will tend to say, oh, I'm just spiritual. Well, how do you identify yourself?
I don't identify myself.
Really?
I kind of have avoided labels up until this point, and I plan on continuing to do that. I'm not a Christian.
Awesome.
I don't go to churches. I don't affiliate with any organized religion. I've had several bad experiences, actually, in churches.
Right.
And so I've just chosen to explore on my own what God is, and I don't feel like I can pinpoint that as being a person, a man who is judging every single thing that I do. So I don't call myself anything. I call myself an explorer.
I think this will be great for us
Right.
because we're both Christians. We identify with that. So it'll be nice to have a different point of view, somebody who's not on the same side as us. So welcome to AfterBuzz TV.
Woo, woo, bringing in that secular point of view.
I find it interesting, too, that you had kind of a bad experience with the church, but you love the show.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've been seeing comments who people, they'll have a bad experience with the church and they see the show and they'll be like, see that's why I don't go to church.
Right, right.
But I love that. I mean, I think that the churchgoers are probably most turned off by this show.
Right.
However, I enjoy seeing the different another side of pastors. Show me
Right.
the real side. I don't want to see this holy roly thing, this front that you put on. I like seeing their life.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're not perfect, and I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, you know, there are some people that are turned off from the show, but there is still a lot of people that are turned on. For the 6th episode this week, over 1 million people still tuned in.
Right.
So this is 6 episodes of
Right.
over 1 million watchers. So this shows us that I think we're going to be having a season 2.
Absolutely. They
Yay.
definitely have a hit.
Yay.
All right, so in this episode, we seen, I guess, our bishops and our pastors trying to stay truth to themselves. And the first one, we see our lovely Bishop Gibson, who is known for having a little too much swag. Personally, that's what I love about him. What do you ladies think about him having too much swag?
I will say this. He's growing on me more and more every single week.
Mm-hmm.
And this week for me, he was very just honest. And I really think I love this episode because it shows that God has to reach everybody and he has to meet them where they're at. Like, there's so many different avenues that God can reach people. And for us to try to put God in a box and say, this is how he's packaged, this is how he looks, this is how he needs to come to me is not correct, because everyone's different. And that's what Ron Gibson shows. He shows the side of, he's a street guy. Street guys they're very show-offy. They're very, like, look what I have. But there's a man that can identify with him. There is a dude out there on the streets that's probably gangbanging that identifies with Ron Gibson so well, identifies with his swag, identifies with his story, and will eventually probably find his own relationship with God because he can relate to somebody like Ron Gibson.
Yes. Tiffany, what do you think?
I think that there is a such thing as too much swag. And I think that
I love you already.
I think that he has too much swag. Like, okay, and even coming from his point of view, like, he came up with nothing. And now he has everything. So that does come with a lot of baggage. I feel like he needs to dial it back a little bit. Like, we don't need to know that you're wearing Armani today. Like,
yeah,
that's
I will agree with his wife, or what his wife said.
Yeah.
She's like, you don't need to tell the price tag and then that your suit is tailor-made. I agree.
It's too much.
Yeah, Lady Lavette, she just always gives it to everyone, even her husband, real, but with a smile on her face. And she told him, he asked her, I'm worried. People are saying that I come off basically too cocky when I'm on stage. And she told him, well, honey, when you're always talking about yourself and focusing on yourself and the price tag of your clothes and what you drive, people are going to take it that way.
Right.
And me personally, I feel like he is showy. He does have a lot of swag, but that's him. That's what makes him him. I kind of feel like, a little kid who is, bouncing off the walls and has too much energy. Like, it can be too much sometimes, but that's them. You got to love them. Or a little kid who's too emotional, that's him. You got to love him for who he is.
Exactly. And I respect him for that because, again, his ministry reaches a certain person. Certain group of people, especially guys that are just like him. There's a lot of guys that grow up on the street in the hood, and they aspire to be a drug lord or a drug dealer because of the things that guy can get. Now you see Ron Gibson, who has the same exact things that a drug lord has. However, he got it because he loves the Lord. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, and I really like his swag. Is it too much at times? Yeah, but I feel like there's a lot of showboat type of, look at me, swagged out type of dudes that can appreciate that and will look up to him.
And he does it in a way not to oppress people, but to help people.
Right.
He wants to show everybody, you can get this too if you walk with the Lord. You don't have to gang bang and sell drugs and stuff like that. So it's a beautiful thing that he can be kind of showy, but also do it for the right reason.
I think he definitely accomplishes what he sets out to do. And there is a place in this world for him and people like him. And people gravitate towards that. When I think about Clarence McClendon going to Compton, I laugh because like somebody has to do it.
Yeah, like I couldn't put
it's
that
when
you just said that I couldn't put the two and two in my head.
That ain't his ministry, honey.
I think I could see Haizlip going before
McClendon, right? He'll never go with the game.
Yeah, that's just not. And he for sure wouldn't go alone.
Absolutely.
Because he ain't from the University of South Central, honey.
USC. I was dying.
No, when
he said that.
When he first said that, I was like, oh, I didn't realize he went to I didn't realize USC had seminary school.
Me too. I was like, go Bishop.
No,
I'm
like, so mad at him.
I love it.
His one-liners are amazing. I think, whoever's doing marketing needs to put together a book of all his sayings from this whole season because he always nails it. Or somebody needs to make a Twitter account with just his sayings.
Right.
I love that his wife, because if I was his wife, I would probably be like, shh, don't say that, like all the time. But she lets him do him.
Right.
And, even you can see her rolling her eyes sometimes at some of the one-liners that he throws out there, but he still does him, and I love that.
So I guess I'll explain that Gibson in this episode, first he's at the barbershop kind of getting ready for, he has a big night. He is a keynote speaker. He needs to address, he wants to be part of this kind of general board of leaders in the church God in Christ. And now there's 12 people who get elected to be on this board. There's businessmen, there's spiritual men, there's wise men. He feels he will be a great asset because he's a bishop and he could reach, to the streets, into the church. But what he's worried about is, he comes from the streets. He is not like them. And he feels like the board is probably not going to like that he is not the same as them. So when he does his speech, he does an amazing job. I got goosebumps.
Man, girl, that's
at what
I
he
was
was
like, oh, that's
yes!
for me.
And he gets up there and in front of the board, he tells them there's some haters over here.
3, actually.
3 that did not raise their hand who want me. And you could see his wife. She was just like, no, he didn't.
Right.
But he brought it back around to say that, it is because of people who have hated on him, who did not support him, that brings him to where he is right now. Right. There was somebody who said that he will never be a bishop, that he can't be a bishop. And that's what drove him. So he was telling the congregation, call your haters and be thankful and say thank you to them, because that's what's going to push you, motivate you to be the person that you want and that you can be.
Right. And he was like, your missteps. He said all of the missteps and the mistakes that he made him who he was, which is true.
Exactly.
And I think that's the one thing that we forget, especially for Christian people, because a lot of Christian people can be hypocritical. Yes. And I think this episode shows us that, the Church of God in Christ is very conservative. Yeah. They're Kojic people, don't play. Like, you got to wear your skirt and all this stuff. And for him to come at a very, in a very liberal way, you have to understand Jesus was a radical. Exactly. You know what I mean? Like, he was liberal. So Ron Gibson's not doing anything that's incorrect. It's just different. Yeah. And sometimes people aren't ready for differences or changes.
And another scene in this episode, we see Haizlip. He says that it saddens him to see Christians hating on other Christians. Right. And to me, it's the same thing. It's everybody's not going to have the same point of view, and they're going to interpret the Bible the way that they feel and the Spirit leads them to interpret it. But later on, we'll see about tattoos. Not everybody agrees with it. Right.
But I did want to say something about Bishop Ron Gibson. And one of the comments that he made when he was in the barbershop and he was talking to his guys, he said that, a lot of the reason why people don't like church, specifically young people, is because they don't like how the church is packaged. And he was saying how like Birdman and Lil Wayne and Kanye are like their own pastors. Yeah. Okay, that's reaching, but I get it. I get what he's saying because, like you got to make things appealing to people. You can't feel like, well, you got too much bling, too much swag. You have a gun license and, you're not qualified to be a pastor. Why not? Yeah. Like that sounds pretty cool. Like you want thug life tatted on your stomach. I think that's pretty funny. Yeah, it is. Because of where you come from. You know what I mean? Like that's hilarious. Yeah. And people can identify with that. So I love him for that. Yeah.
Tiffany, how do you feel about Gibson? He has a gun. Do you feel okay that a bishop has a gun? Do you feel okay that he's preaching and talking about Lil Wayne and Birdman and kind of comparing himself to the two?
It's funny. I'm looking at this from the outside looking in. And the whole gun
Wait, you're telling me you're not thug life? You're not?
I'm very much thug life. Okay. But the whole gun conversation definitely rang in my mind because the people in the barbershop were saying that if you're a man of God, you don't need a gun.
And this is what he says to that. He says, I have a license for my gun. And he said, to do the Lord's work in saving souls, I have to make sure my soul doesn't have a pre-departure from this earth.
Which I love.
So he's saying, he said to them too, he said, when somebody is, robbing you and tells you to take off your pants and pull down your undies, you're going to feel the Lord leave you real quick because you're going to be so scared. Right. So he feels like you should have a gun. He's going to protect himself.
Which completely contradicts the Christian way of thinking that you don't need to back up God because God got your back.
See, I disagree. I feel like I'm a Christian and I feel like I know that God gave us free will.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that everybody's not Christian either, and not everybody's going to choose the right. So when you're going into these, these hoods, and there's people who don't follow the Lord there, I feel like, how are you going to protect yourself?
But see, here's the thing that I have to say. I think this is more personal preference than it is a show of your faith, because I think that's what the men in the barbershop were talking about. Bishop Gibson obviously is a street dude, and everyone has a gun where he's from. And so for him, it's like, if I'm going into the hood back to what I know, I must carry a gun with me. Yeah. This is the law of the streets, okay? Yeah. And he's coming from he's from this place. Yeah. This is where he grew up. I don't think that means he has less faith than the man who was saying, you know what, if I go into a place like this, I'm going in there with my faith. That's it. I'm going in there with God. I don't think either one of them is wrong. I don't think either one of them has more faith than the other.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's okay either way. Yeah. I personally would be like the dude that said, I'm going in there and I'm going Holy Ghost dance, and the Lord is my backup.
Not
His
me.
angels
I'm
are my backup.
Whipping somebody.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm not gonna say but that's just how my faith operates. It's different. You know what I mean? But I would never tell anybody, don't you dare go in there without your gun. If the Lord is leading you with that, okay, I'm not gonna sit here. But I will say this about what Bishop Gibson said. He said, when he said the whole, I don't want my soul to have a premature departure from my body, I have a little disagreement with that, because I don't think, no matter what circumstance you're in, I don't believe that people prematurely leave their body. I think I disagree. I believe there's a designed time you come in, and there's a designed time you come out. Now, the time you come out of this world may not be favorable, may not be the way you thought, may not be what you intended, but I truly believe God's ways are a lot higher than mine. So I don't really understand when people's departure times come. Yeah. That's just me.
I disagree on that, because like I look at somebody who committed suicide. I feel like it was their free will, and God didn't design them to leave at that time. They had the free will to take their own life at that time.
I get you, but I kind of feel like this is getting on a whole different tangent. But I just feel like, because God is the beginning and the end, he already knew when your end time was.
Yeah, I think
he knew that that's how you were going to come out. But he didn't want that, but he knew that's how you were going to leave the earth, because he already knows the future before. I don't know. It's a whole long story.
I understand what you're saying, but I feel like, I think he gives you like a little kid, you educate them and you give them the tools to succeed, but it's their choice. But I feel like he knows when you're going to end it, or how it's going to end, but I think he gives you two roads and you choose. So you design your own path, just like, what you want to be when you grow up. You can be talented in, different areas, but you choose. God gives you multiple talents, and you choose what you want to do. So that's how I feel about it. I don't know. It is getting too deep right now.
Right.
Tiffany, she's
I'm
over there quiet.
between two Christians. Help me. No, I agree. Like, with you. Like, if I don't go to Compton that day, I might keep my life.
Yeah, I think it's choices that you make sometimes
that kind of influence how long you stay on this earth.
All right, well, you guys out there listening, let us know what you think in the comment section on YouTube or on our iTunes. Please rate, subscribe, and give us 5 stars. We love 5 stars, and we love your comments. I think Megan has a couple comments that she wanted to talk about.
So first, I want to give a shout out on our episode 5 video. Latasha Carter wrote, "Love the show and your reviews. I agree that Dominique was pregnant already. She currently is very pregnant, or was at some premiere they were at. So I'm convinced she was pregnant before the marriage. But that does not make me look at her, Dietrich, or their union any less."
Aww.
So I will agree with her. You heard this from Latasha Carter on YouTube. She says that Dominique is definitely pregnant. She's very pregnant currently. I don't know how she knows. Maybe she knows. I don't know. But that's a little bit of tea for y'all.
I think she's definitely pregnant.
Right.
I didn't think so until I started hearing other people say it. But just like she's 20-something. She acts like a 40-year-old. Just the way she carries herself.
So that means she's pregnant?
Well, she was telling me.
I know,
she was
problems over
yeah,
here.
she was telling me back there that, well, Tiffany was saying back and behind the scenes that even the way she was breathing,
her
like
breathing is heavy, her back is hurting.
Yeah.
But she's like young and healthy. She shouldn't be doing all that.
Yeah.
Like
that's
something's
really
not
funny.
right with the picture. And then the rushed marriage. red flags all over that.
Yeah.
Okay. She's probably pregnant. I'm just saying. And then the other thing I wanted to address is I forgot one of our one of our viewers, love you to death, forgot your name, but I responded to you on YouTube. And one of the comments that was made was basically there was a lot of scripture going on the Preachers of L.A. AfterBuzz show. And the only reason that I ever bring up scriptures is just to because they have something to do with what the people in the show are saying.
It's a baby girl 1920. Hey, baby girl.
Hey, baby girl 1920. Hey, girl. No, but the reason I do that is because what we were talking about. And so a lot of the stuff that these people say on this show, they ground it in the word, which is the Bible. But unfortunately, a lot of stuff, people get it wrong. People get it wrong. And there's a lot of stuff that people confuse tradition with what's actually in the Bible. And so it is our duty to make sure we know the difference between the two, because that can turn a lot of people away from God, from church, from whatever, because they're, somebody is spitting to them some traditional stuff, which is actually nothing that has to do with God. So that's why we give scripture. You make your own conclusions, but we're just going to give you what the word actually says.
I actually tuned in last week, and I tuned in on the part where you were doing your scriptures, and I was like, oh my God. I need to read some of this before I come or what? I need to read up.
Honestly, that's how I felt when I was watching Preachers of L.A. I'm like, I need to get in my word more, because I don't know if, they're taking it out of context or they're really reading it for what it is. So for me, just watching the show, not even just doing AfterBuzz, but it made me kind of brush up on my word and get in the Bible more.
Yeah, there's so many different interpretations of the word. And you see that through this show, how different preachers take things differently.
Right.
So it is helpful to know what it is, what's true and what's not.
Right. And so that's all this is. If I ever give you a verse, it's really just to be like, you draw your own conclusions, but this is actually what it says. You pick what you think it means. There you go.
All right. So let's move on to a little praise and worship. Now we see Bishop McClendon. His son is his assistant, and also trying to get more into being ahead of the praise and worship team. So Bishop McClendon says to him, we're going to give you the 2 p.m. service to lead the worship time. So you do what you want. It's a lot of responsibility, but he grew up in the church where he was never forced to be a preacher. It was up to him where he felt like God was calling him, but he also had a passion for music. And I don't know if you guys seen the picture of him on the bass and his big glasses. And I'm like, McClendon was...
oh my gosh. He talk about somebody grew into their looks.
Right.
Bishop McClendon, praise the Lord.
He got it together.
He did. But he felt like even though he loved being a musician so much, he felt that God's hand was over him to become a preacher, and that's how we got that. So now he has a son, and he wants to, push him in the direction that whatever God is pushing him in the direction. So whether it be preaching or being gospel music. Now, we see Cameron perform, and he told his dad before he got on stage and before he set everything up that he wanted a younger audience. He wanted to reach a different audience, so he wanted to get younger musicians, younger singers on stage. And McClendon was being supportive, but he was kind of like, we got to remember we need to reach everybody, not just the young. So
He said broader, not necessarily younger.
Yeah, okay, broader. But to me, that meant we need to get some young people up here.
Right.
And I think McClendon kind of was struggling with letting him take some responsibility. Did you ladies feel the same way?
I think so, but only because his son is he's not confident.
Right.
He's a little mousy kid.
But this is how I feel. I feel like McClendon has so much power and authority that how can you be very confident?
Right.
Like even his wife, I feel like we don't see as much of her as we do all the other ladies. I feel like because he's the powerhouse in the pact. And I think, when you come up under a household with that much, not only is he your father, he's your boss, and he's your pastor, the preacher of your church. I mean, I would be scared to voice up.
And I think he even says that in this episode. Bishop McClendon says that, he's like, I'll be watching everything that you do. He's like, okay, how's it going? Like he's kind of micromanaging his son a little bit because he loves his son and he wants to make sure that his son does well in this new avenue of his life. But I think also because he's kind of a bossy micromanager. Yeah. I mean, he kind of is like that. And you see just how they respect him. It's because of how into all of his ministry that he is. He's very hands-on. He's very, this is the way I want it done. This is the way it needs to be done.
And maybe that's why he's successful at what he does.
Right.
We also see a scene with him and his son in the studio. His Bishop McClendon reserved some time in the studio for his son to, play music, have some daddy son
cute?
time.
Right.
And I was on set. That was my first day on set when I started working for the production
really?
company. So I got to be there, and it was really nice to see, that father-son time, and they were actually really talking and engaging. And I think Cameron was kind of wondering, well, what if I want to do, regular music and
secular music,
and what if I don't want to just do gospel? And I think McClendon was, he was speaking truth. He was like,
Right.
I want you to do what your heart desires, but whatever you do, whether it's secular or not, should have a great story, a great message.
Yeah. And I agree with it. And I love how he responds to his son, because so many times preachers are always trying to push their kids to be like ministers and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that he was a preacher's kid himself and a musician, he understands the struggles that his son is going through.
Yeah.
And he's a little more liberal than I think most preachers would be with their kids.
Yeah, and he knows it's a different time.
Right. And he's like, it's fine if you want to, as long as it's a good message and it's about love, like, sing it. Like, you know what I mean? Whatever God leads you to. And I love that.
I love his parenting style.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's what I was going to say.
love that.
Yeah, he's authoritative, but I think loving at the same time.
Right.
With both of his sons. The little one I adore.
He's so cute.
Oh
Right.
my
He's so cute.
goodness.
So cute.
When they were sitting at the dinner table and he was kind of sad that his girlfriend, what is he,
Oh
like
my
8 years
gosh.
old,
Right.
is moving, but he's like, oh, she'll be back. And Bishop McClendon's like, be back?
Like, y'all talk about a future.
What are you talking
Right.
about? What did you guys think of Kim's performance?
I think that we missed the good parts,
Right.
obviously, because there are people in the audience crying. I'm like, did I miss something?
I will agree with you. I feel like they started with his the beginning of his performance, and to me he looked a little scared.
Right.
He looked a little like, hi, it's my first time.
It's my first time.
I'm so
It's your first time.
scared.
It's my
Right.
first time.
But I feel like you saw it and it was kind of like,
Womp, womp, womp.
right. And so I really do think that he probably did, once he started singing, once he started getting into it, he probably did, his confidence built, because you see it when he's in the studio with his father and he's singing his own song, which, by the way, was hot.
Yeah.
It was okay. Come on.
I like that song. I would actually jam that song. I feel like, you saw his little swag coming, his confidence coming. So I feel like maybe, we probably missed that part. They didn't put that in.
You guys out there, let us know what you're thinking about this part. What do you think of Cam's performance? Do you think he would be a great gospel singer, or a secular music singer, or do you think he should follow his dad and be a preacher instead? We'd like to know what you guys are thinking.
Right. And I also want to say, I love the information that his dad gives him, because he says, well, like, what if I want to be like a successful artist or worship singer? Like, what do I have to do? What are my chances?
Oh my
And his
gosh.
dad's like, first of all, like, you getting into it for the wrong reasons. And his answer to him was, as long as you keep the worship before the Lord, like, you don't have to worry about it. Don't worry about any of that. Just make sure you have the right motive for doing what you're doing.
I just want to put in an early prediction that Cam might be the next little saved R. Kelly. Like, he might be getting into some of that sex music. 'Cause-
Really?
Well, he's like asking about going out on Saturday nights and coming to church on Sunday. Like, his head is obviously straying a little bit.
Well, I feel like when you're a PK kid and you're under
Right.
that strong hand, you can't do much. He probably doesn't
Right.
party at all on Saturday
when
nights.
he hits 21,
Yeah.
it's
Right.
at a daddy's house. We're
You
gonna
gonna
hear
feel-
some love making music.
Right.
coming from
my
Cameron
goodness. We'll have
McClendon.
to note to self, a couple years from now, let's
Right.
watch out for
I don't
Cam.
see nothing wrong.
I know she
You see,
did
watch
it.
Cam's Instagram page.
I
It might
wonder,
change.
I wonder
Right?
if he's gonna be all tatted up like the
Tatted up.
Haizlips. Speaking of tattoos, this episode, we see the ladies meet up with
At Loretta's JJ
Loretta's,
Bistro.
yeah, JJ's Bistro with Loretta, and they're trying her great food, and different discussions came up. They started talking about a lot of things, and one of the things that came up were tattoos. And Maisha did not want no part in this. She
Honey.
started comparing tattoos to having
To be-
premarital sex,
Homosexuality,
Drugs.
getting drunk.
Let me tell you, I personally don't have any tattoos, and I feel like I don't have any tattoos. One, because I grew up in the church and I was scared. They kind of
Because everybody was like Maisha at your church, probably.
Yeah,
Yes.
but then when I was old enough and I was, away at college and I could make my own decisions, I feel at that point I just didn't have any desire to put anything on my body for the rest of my life.
Right.
In the future, will I? Maybe I will. Maybe I'll have a kid and want to put their face on my arm. Who knows?
Oh, gosh.
Or, people put different things, but...
Thug life on your neck?
No.
Oh, okay,
on my
got you.
stomach. On my
stomach.
stomach. But I feel like, me personally, I don't see anything wrong with it. I don't think it makes you less of a Christian, more of a Christian.
Right.
Kind of like Loretta was saying, like Christy was saying, like Bishop Haizlip. I feel like it's... What do you guys think?
I think it is an overstretch to say that you are less of a Christian if you have tattoos.
Right.
Like, I grew up also with that train of thought that your body is your temple and you don't damage it. However, I worked at a piercing salon in college doing that. So and also Pastor Haizlip noted that this is or Bishop Gibson noted that this is a tattoo generation.
Yeah.
40% of millennials have tattoos.
Right.
So what do you say to that?
Yeah.
Right. And that's the one thing that I wanted to talk about, because here's another issue. Here's another example of how church people misconstrue tradition and what really the word says. Okay. So let's just be honest here. The one thing that you referenced was 1 Corinthians 6:19-20. And this is what it really says. And this is why I get so mad, because people misquote this. It says, or do you not know that your body is a temple of the Holy Spirit within you, whom you have from God? You are not your own, for you are bought with a price. So glorify God in your body. So basically, your body is a temple, yes, but you glorify God with that. So if that means you got to get a sleeve full of tattoos to reach some tattooed people, then you get a sleeve full of tattoos, because you're glorifying God in that way. You know what I mean? And we have to get out of that mentality, especially because, like what Wayne Chaney said, Jesus got a tattoo on his thigh. Revelations 19:16, it says King of Kings.
Jesus?
It's Jesus.
Yeah.
In Revelation, they're speaking about Jesus. It says King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Okay, and guess what? God has a tattoo on his palm. Isaiah 49:16. See, I have written your name on the palms of my hands. Always in my mind is a picture of Jerusalem's walls and ruins. And during that time, he was talking to the children of Israel. So God got a tattoo. Jesus got a tattoo. I don't ever want to hear any church people act like tattoos are bad. There's something wrong with them. No, and when people say that you're not supposed to put tattoos, the thing that Christy was talking about, Christy said that, in Leviticus, that you're not supposed to cut your bodies for the dead and do not mark your skin with tattoos.
Or for other gods.
Right. And that was the whole point, because people read the word and they forget that the Bible is written. It's also a historical book. Okay. It's not only how you live, but it's a historical book. So you have to read everything in context to history, understand the context, and then you bring it to where you are today. So back then, the people in Israel was living around a bunch of pagans who would literally cut themselves, put markings on themselves for the dead. It was like a cultic, ritualistic type of thing. So that's why they were cutting their body, and that's why they were told not to do that. That's why they were told not to get these tattoos. But you look at today's time, most people getting tattoos aren't doing it for a ritualistic, cultic type of thing.
Okay, so what do you say about the people who get tattoos, but it's not for God? They're getting a tattoo of their dead mom's name on their arm.
There's again, God has a tattoo of the name on the bottom of his hands to remember the children of Israel, the covenant that he made with them. So if God has a remembrance tattoo on his hand, that's not a worship tattoo. That's not I'm doing something because I want the spirit of the blood of the people who died to be. It's not it. It's if you want to remember somebody, there's a story in that. Your story can connect with somebody who's hurting, who has pain. And that's the whole point. You might have a tattoo of your mom's hummingbird and somebody else has the same hummingbird, and you start talking. Now you've got common ground with somebody. Now they're more likely to listen to the stuff that you have to say, because they're like, you're just like me.
Yeah. We see Pastor Haizlip sit down and talk to one of the members of Korn, and he
loved it.
Filled with tattoos and long hair. And if you see him, you would probably think, oh, he's not Christian, or you just don't even put him with Christian in your mind. But Haizlip was saying, and so was he, that you can't judge somebody from what they look like on the outside.
Right.
It's what's inside. And he's actually known now in the rock industry as kind of the Christian rocker. Other people are going up to him, are you still doing that Jesus stuff? Because he's an advocate for Christianity, even though he looks a certain way. So kind of like what you're saying, sometimes tattoos can reach and connect with certain people, just like Gibson and his swag reach into the hoods and the streets. Well, these tattoos are reaching to the skateboarders and the rockers. And I think it's just, your tattoos is different from doing drugs. And I don't agree with Maisha. I don't think it has anything to do with homosexuality. I was kind of disappointed when she said that. And I feel like she has children and they're growing up in this time. And I feel like hopefully her husband, they can find a common ground and kind of, steer their children in a different way. I feel like when you're so close to when you're super conservative, when you're borderline Tea Party, you know what I mean? I think any extreme is bad. Yeah. Too evil is bad, and too holy. Either, to me, they're the same. Oh,
they're one and the same. I'm just saying. So, and that's the thing. For her to be like, the church is becoming more accepting of these things like homosexuality, and I'm like, hold on, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of what you do is to help people get their own relationship with God. How does that even happen with somebody that you have nothing in common with? Yeah. And that's what I love. That's why the Haizlips still are my favorite couple. Because here you have a guy from Korn, the lead guitarist in Korn, which, by the way, when I was in high school, Korn was like the most like death metal head.
Right. You thought they were devil worshipers.
Right.
Yes.
And so to see him, I'm like, you see what God is doing. He has to reach everybody.
Yeah.
So why not get the lead guy from Korn to have his own relationship with God? And he even says, I feel like it's the Christians that are spitting the worst venom. And he says, I think they need more Jesus than the drug addicts. And that's so true.
Oh, yeah.
So true.
Maisha definitely turned me off a few times during this episode by being so closed-minded. She wouldn't try Loretta soup. Which
fish tea soup, by the way, I'm coming to JJ's Bistro this weekend.
We need to go there.
Let's go.
I'm down.
Let's go.
And we need to get her on the show.
It's in Inglewood, girl. I'll show you. It's close to me.
Okay.
But then I feel like she overstepped her boundaries a little bit. Like, as someone's wife, it's not your job to say what you can and can't do.
Oh, I disagree.
What?
When you get married, this is my opinion. When you get married, you become one. And I feel like, I would, if I was married, I would want my husband to ask me.
I don't know.
Okay, I see what you're saying, but for me, I feel like this. Yes, when you become married, you become one. We know that. But there's still two different types. There's two people. Yeah. And so you're still going to have different issues and different things that you like. Just because you're one don't mean you like the same stuff. So I think there's a different way she could have handled that, because I feel like the way she was saying it, she emasculated him like, no, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen.
I feel like they should have talked it out more, but I do feel like when you're in a relationship, it should be like Haizlip. He said that he mentioned it to Christy that he wanted.
He didn't ask permission. He just told her, just like Wayne said, I'm going to get a tattoo.
A man should.
I think Wayne was just messing with her.
I think he was serious.
I think he knows how his wife is.
Right.
He
said, I'm not trying to sleep on a couch.
Exactly. He knows, she wasn't going to like it. And he was kind of just pushing her buttons to try to open her up a little, which I thought was kind of funny because she was really getting upset over it.
And that's their marriage. I mean, if that works for them, great.
I don't know. I think that's like a red flag. He needs to leave.
Whoa!
Because that's his way of expressing himself. Why is she shutting it down? Like, I don't. Jeez, red flag, Wayne. Look, red flag.
And I think we're almost out of time. We have to leave this episode, but you guys out there, make sure you comment. We want to hear what you guys think of tattoos. Do you think Christians should be getting tattoos? Or, do you feel like Maisha that your body is a temple and that you shouldn't mark it for life?
Even with ear piercings and all the other stuff.
Also, if it's a temple, you need to put the fried chicken down. Like,
it
extends beyond tattoos.
That's what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Give me.
That's
what I'm talking about.
But can I say she lost 20 pounds this season?
Oh, did she?
Yeah,
she did.
Mm-hmm. If you notice, the first couple episodes, she looks heavy, but in her confessionals, she looks thinner.
True.
Didn't notice that.
All right, well, let's get on to these predictions.
All right, predictions.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV prediction.
All right, Miss Newbie, tell us what your predictions are for episode 7.
Just give us one.
So we saw Noel with his little jacket on, walking up to Loretta. I'm predicting that they might pursue a serious relationship this time around. Maybe even pop the question for the finale.
Ooh, yes, I was gonna say the same thing. Loretta's gonna take him back, and then I think we're gonna see some fun stuff with what's her name, Dominique, and her bachelorette party with all the sex toys.
Oh, at JJ Bistro's, she does that.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're gonna talk about sex in the next episode, I see, which is actually a
Fun.
taboo topic.
It
in
is. I feel like
Christendom.
every episode they have, all
Right.
these
Pushing the
taboo,
envelope.
all these taboo topics. I predict that Loretta and Noel will get back together. I mean, it's 16 years of friendship. That ain't going nowhere. But I
Right.
predict it's going to be the same thing. You guys out there listening, tell us what you guys predict.
Yes.
Do you think Noel will get back with Loretta? Also, again, the tattoos. And yeah, comment, rate, subscribe. Tune in next week. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at FitWithFallon. Where can they find you, Meg?
As always, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Meg Scoop, like scoop of ice cream. And don't worry, next week I'm gonna be back in the Soprano section.
Whoop. And you can find me at latransplant.com.
LA Transplant.
LA Transplant.
You got a transplant?
Where are you from?
A transplant?
No.
Not
She's
quite.
a transplant. She moved
Oh, you're not
here.
on the
Yeah.
transplant list. I was like, you got cancer, babe? Okay, gotcha. We gonna lay hands.
I need to
All right.
clarify that next time.
We'll talk more next week. Tune in, same place, same time.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.